All right, let's talk a little SEC, and then we'll wrap up. Texas versus Texas A&M, unless somebody stumbles there, the winner of that game is going to be in Atlanta for the conference championship. Tennessee wins, and they're in, but they're a 2-score dog right now against UGA at home. Based on everything I can figure out in the whole 2-team chaos scenario, it looks like Bama has the best opponent's record so far. So if mostly chalk holds up, it's probably Alabama versus the winner of Texas A&M. LSU is actually right behind them. And so if a couple of tiebreakers, a couple of games went their way, you could see them jumping Alabama, though losing in an embarrassing fashion because of this tiebreaker scenario. What is the outrage? I mean, I don't know if it's so much outrage because that's the way the tiebreakers work. It's not necessarily like a committee picks a team, but what is the outrage if LSU makes it up over Alabama because of a weird tiebreaker?
It would be interesting, and you mentioned all that. I feel like you were Zach Galifianakis in The Hangover, like looking at all these like equations fly by. I think the LSU thing would be fascinating because of how it looked and the fact that they are a 3-loss team, obviously 2 in the SEC, and they have looked bad. But that's the one team that I think in the world of the SEC administration would really hate to be in Atlanta. And we can sit here and talk Cinderellas, all this other stuff. But in year one, if they put this whole plan together and add Texas and Oklahoma, there's all this hype, and you have an average LSU team in there, that's not good for business. So I think ultimately what it will come down to actually is Tennessee, Georgia, because I think Tennessee probably will win that game. And if Tennessee can find a way to skate through and still have, head-to-head wins over, 2 contenders, that matters a lot. We can sit here and draw all these, zigzags and connect all these dots in terms of the tiebreaker, but ultimately having head-to-head wins over 2 of the other contenders in that discussion will help, but it would be bad for LSU to win. I think the SEC folks would absolutely hate that.
Yeah, and this is no shot at A&M, but A&M's fans will not love to hear me say this either. But if it was A&M versus LSU, like obviously they would have beaten Texas, so maybe they played their way in. But to have Texas and Alabama and Georgia and all these teams in here, and then A&M versus LSU, a rematch, I think that could.
Of a pretty decent game, but not a great one.
Yeah, not the excitement that you would get from Texas-Georgia rematch or Alabama-Georgia rematch or things like that. So is that an argument for divisions to maybe come back in? Like, is this the SEC's own doing?
No, I mean, I think there's no way divisions will come back. I hated divisions so much because eventually, and more times than not, you're going to get fantastic matchups, right? You're going to get matchups that really are the best 2 teams in the conference. And I think that's not just in the SEC, that's, around the ACC and everywhere else as well. It just so happens that the tiebreaker gets, if this whole thing in doomsday scenario, comes to fruition, the tiebreaker scenario that you have to have just spit out the wrong team. To me, I still think that if more times than not, you're not going to have a team that's not worthy in your championship game and certainly win it, right? In division format, and this being in the ACC, your whole life, sometimes you get a division winner that sucks.
Yeah.
And we call that the ACC Coastal.
The Coastal every year. Yeah.
The Coastal.
What if you could make risk-free profits in sports betting? Now, this may sound too good to be true, but let me explain. The sports betting market in the U.S. is so fragmented, with each sports book setting their own odds. This means that there are many opportunities to profit when 2 books get out of sync. You can bet on both sides. You can bet over on one book and under on another and lock in a risk-free profit. This strategy is called arbitrage, and it's the core of OddsJam. OddsJam scans hundreds of sports books in real time to find these bets, helping thousands of bettors earn tens of thousands of dollars every single month. Look at the results yourself. And here's the best part. You can try it for free. OddsJam offers a 7-day risk-free trial, giving you access to all of its data-driven tools, including the arbitrage and positive EV finder. If you don't love it, Cancel with one click, no strings attached. Are you ready to bet smarter? Use promo code CFA for College Football Addiction to get 35% off your first month after the trial. Don't miss out on making smarter, risk-free bets with OddsJam today.
That's worse, man. That's worse,
Yeah.
especially in a 12-team playoff. I remember when Missouri played Auburn in 2014. Now, in 2013, Missouri was really good. 2014, they were not good at all. They played in the SEC championship game. In this new format, they would go to the playoff. That sucks.
Yeah.
So you have to prevent against something like that.
The committee has said that they won't punish teams for the third loss. I assume they're telling the truth there, but when rubber really meets the road, and yeah, I certainly sound like the scorned lover, right? But when rubber really meets the road, are there teams that would maybe want to avoid going there and getting that third loss? Like, would just say like, hey, nobody. I mean, it's the opportunity to go play your way in. So maybe nobody wants to avoid it. And a team like LSU, like they need it, right? They need to get in to Atlanta, so they're not going to want to avoid it. But are there some teams that would say like, man, we just need to skate in with this 10-2 record and not be put in that situation of having to go and compete? Now, no team's going to come out and admit that, but I would think it will be very interesting if teams are not punished. What if they lose by 15? What if it's not necessarily a close game? You lose by 3, you're probably not punished. Late pick 6 or something, and you lose by 17. Mm-hmm. I think it could get kind of dicey.
Yeah, I call that the Masters effect, right? Do you want to go into the clubhouse with the lead or be in the mix with 6 groups behind you? More times than not, no. But you never know. But I refuse to believe anything that the committee says about anything. Like they come out Tuesday, and all of the things they said on last week are going to be completely different than what they say this week. It's ridiculous that there's no. The whole thing's ridiculous, but it's ridiculous they don't have transparency. But I would imagine that you cannot, in a divisionless format, get punished for playing your way into a championship game and losing, unless there's some really weird circumstances. Talking about an injury or, you just get smoked by 40 or whatever. But still, if you play yourself there, you deserve credit for it. It's kind of, and I hate comparing basketball and football together. March Madness is not the playoffs, not, whatever. But to me, it's almost like in a conference tournament in basketball, right? If you're probably going to get into the NCAA tournament and be a 5 seed, but you lose in your conference tournament in the championship game, doesn't really matter, right? If you're a 2 seed, are you going to drop down to a 3 seed? Probably not, right? So I think playing your way into a conference championship game, even if you lose, I just can't see how they would punish you for that, unless, like I said, there's like an injury or whatever. But it's the College Football Playoff Selection Committee. They just kind of make it up as they go.
Yeah. Pate said this last night, and I do kind of agree with it. I don't necessarily think the SEC will get punished. I don't think the Big Ten will get punished. I worry about, if BYU picks up their first loss of the year, do they get punished? If SMU picks up another loss, or Miami, are they out? Like those are the teams I think that probably have more to be worried about than a 2-loss Texas or something like that.
But here's the thing: is like they harped so much. Like they did this in the 14 playoff, but now more than ever, they harp so much on championship game, conference championship game. And okay, yeah, I get it, because they have automatic bids. But if it matters so much to them, shouldn't that same mindset be transferred to the team that lost? Like, it matters so much, and they almost got there, right? They almost won that. I don't know. Like, again, we're trying to read the minds of people who change their mind all the time. So I don't know.
Who is your pick at this point? So you kind of like Tennessee this weekend. Who is your pick to be? Is it Texas, Tennessee in Atlanta?
Oh man, yeah, probably, because I do think Tennessee's going to win out. I don't think that. I think Georgia's a disaster, and it's been heading in that direction for a while. Yeah, Texas, Tennessee, like we all predicted, right?
Yeah, just what everyone thought, especially after Tennessee dropped to Arkansas, nearly loses to Florida the next week, and then just comes out and beats Georgia and Bama and goes into Atlanta like nobody.
Why not? Well, Tennessee goes in there, sure.
Yeah. Barrett, where can people follow you? Where can they find more of your work?
Yeah, college football smothered and covered. If you're watching this or listening to this, you know how to do the podcast thing, but it's on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, all that stuff. Outkick for the written content, SiriusXM, throughout the week on Channel 84, whenever they need me, and definitely on Sunday morning, the therapy session that Tom Luganville and I hold, where basically people get to call in and tell us how much they hate their team or love their team, and there's really no in between.
Yeah, zero. There's never been an in between with college football fanatics. So, man, I appreciate you for taking some time and chatting with us.
My pleasure. Thanks, DJ.